Yo, what is up, everybody? It's Expanded Understanding. I removed myself from the stream. Hi, I'm Zach. These are blue light blocking glasses so you can see what I can see on my screen. I don't know, maybe I should take these off. So, I've been staring at a computer a lot recently. So, blue light
Mhm.
blocking glasses. If you're staring at screens a lot, highly recommend blue light blocking glasses if you don't
Yep.
want your fucking dreams to get destroyed because got
Because it
fucking blue
stimulates
light in your
your
face all over the place.
pituitary to not release melatonin into your system, and it keeps you stimulated, and then you don't reach REM and delta very easily. So you are
Yeah.
100% correct, sir. They're very, very good for every human being who spends a lot of time inside in front of artificial light, let alone
Yeah.
a screen, phone screen, or computer screen.
If you weren't here right when the stream came up, make sure to go listen to the very beginning of it when you come back, or go and check, or when we get done, or go and check this track out that's on the screen here, which is kind of like a drum and bass mashup with some samples and some of the sounds sampled from Riders on the Storm by the Doors. Really excellent mashup. Really outstanding. Super pumped on
Cool.
that one today. One thing I love about electronic music, man, like I've been listening to electronic music for 20 years, some shit like that. And
Yeah.
like anytime that I'm like really serious about listening to it, like I'm checking out new shit and I'm like actually interested in it, like
Hmm.
every day I get like this gift where I find like some new shit that I've never heard
Right.
before, and I'm just like, oh
Totally.
my god, this is so good. This came out 6 years ago. How have I not been listening to this for 6 years? You know?
Right. Yeah, what a good way to describe it. Totally. Yeah, that's what's so amazing about all the nuances with the same sounds, if you will, or similar sounds, but they can be so nuanced within EDM and drum bass and all that that it's never not stale. Well, it can be when people do it certain ways, but there's the opportunity within that genre, if you will, for it to always be novel.
Yeah, I mean, I think people oftentimes in like the more when people are trying to get popular in a genre, they start like making the same shit, and that's why like it
Yeah.
doesn't work. You gotta have that new shit. So
Yeah, that new shit. Gotta have that novel shit, the novelty wave shit.
yeah, I mean, a lot of like I don't know, doing the same thing as other people has never really actually got anybody like real popular. I mean, they've always it's always been somebody who's taken their kind of like spin on it or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I don't know. I'm not down with the copying thing myself. So, but
Yeah.
I do like sampling, however, which is like it's I think I like that it's like skirting the line of I'm plagiarizing their shit, but like when it's
Totally.
done right, it's like so there. Okay,
Yeah, it's novel.
so there's this. Okay, the one of these Awake FM mixes. It's the one I've been talking about recently. I don't even remember. I think it was like 61 or some shit like that. But it
Mhm.
has this fucking hard ass song that's like boom, but then like it ends up then having this Notorious B.I.G. sample that's like the next track. Like you've listened to this track, and if you're in the right headspace when you listen to this hard ass track, you're sitting there going like, how are they possibly gonna follow this up with anything that is gonna keep this energy going, right? And then
Right.
you hear this sample come in from the next track, and it's Notorious B.I.G. going, "Smoking blunts was a daily routine," and it's fucking so good, dude. Like, and then they end up like looping this smoking blunts, like it, dude. It's so fucking good. And then like it
Awesome.
has another great drop with it, and like I remember the first time that I was hearing that, I was just like so fucking pumped on the first
Yeah.
song that was on. It was loud as shit. My entire trailer was shaking. Like,
Yeah.
and then, but I was just like, I was really in that moment going, like, there's no way they can follow this up. Like, it's impossible. And then, like,
Yeah.
that track came on, and like, it didn't, like, it doesn't
Yeah.
follow it up, to be honest. Like, the track right
Right.
before it is just so fucking hard. Like, it doesn't follow it up. Most tracks don't follow that up. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, but that sample, Notorious B.I.G., near and dear to my heart. Like when I was a teenager and shit, we listened to a lot of Notorious B.I.G. So, like, I know all the words to probably 15 Notorious B.I.G. songs, just like off the top of my head, any day or night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Well, it's
when I
nuts. I
like,
know it totally. I totally know what you mean in that dynamic. I mean, there's a couple that I don't know. I posted on my Facebook a while ago that I've gotten into. I think one of them was the Rampage 2017 or like whatever. Just by like listening to it and then starting to really engaging with it. So going through these movements, so everything you're just talking about, right? Different songs coming
Mm-hmm.
up and the way you're engaging, and then the beat drops or it makes it into another, and it's just like this is fucking amazing, and like all
Yeah.
this but being able to like timestamp it out and articulate, kind of like show notes, I guess, right? Just going
Mm.
through and like, and here, fuck this
This
thing,
is the
and then
really
here,
good spot. That
this thing,
it's doing the twangy thing.
yeah. And then even coming up with like noises, you're trying to find ways to
Yeah.
articulate out actual the noises or sounds, which is cool because it starts new words that people are like, oh yeah, that sounds like the twingy pangy thing.
Yeah.
Aaron said that once, and like that makes sense. I guess I'll use that because I didn't really have a
Yeah.
word for it until then, or whatever. And it's just a made up word. I'm just trying to phonetically sound out something that I'm kind of
Yeah.
interpreting or whatever.
What's that called when you like you're making a sound with a word? Is that onomatopoeia? I can't remember what it
Where
is.
the sound is the same thing as the word. Me, I don't
Bang,
know.
for instance. Wham,
Yeah,
bap, smack.
yeah.
All these words. I think these are all onomatopoeias or whatever, but like basically that's what you end up doing, right? Like you have a sound in your head and you're either
Yeah.
like trying to make the sound or you're trying to like well characterize it. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
onomatopoeia. That's crazy. It took me about 20 years, guys, but I finally did it. I was trying to think of the word that was the sound in a word, and I did it finally. There's been literally so many times in my life where I've been like, "What is that fucking word?" And I can't remember onomatopoeia because it nothing. It like people talk about how you can't rhyme with orange. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and I get it. I get what they're saying. But like, there's other words that are just like weird too that you never hear anybody rhyme. Like, you never hear anybody
Yeah.
rhyme onomatopoeia, right? You could,
Right.
you could get
You
it
could.
done. Don't get me wrong, but
Well, like I think
it's you
there's
don't hear
a
it.
several like 3 or 5 minute clip on YouTube of Eminem explaining to some reporter or somebody interviewing him about how to
The
rhyme
orange
words like
thing, yeah,
orange. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
It's true. It's about additional adding additional layers of perception, which like
yeah,
microdosing and a bunch of other things would do really well for artists, especially in that dynamic, because you're able to lace in or layer in additional words or nuances you hadn't considered before, additional phonetics if you stretch it kind of in this way or emphasize this part of the syllables and that whatever, it totally can transition into something else that's completely fluid.
totally. I think like all the best artists ever, like especially if we're talking about painting, even if they weren't doing drugs, they were actually microdosing because they always had like
Mm,
some other kind of like facet of their life that was this other thing that they did too. Either they were like really interested in women, or they were also
mm,
into music, or there was like some kind of socialite lifestyle that they lived, or something like that. That it was like they went out and they microdosed society, other perception, and then like went back to their little lab and like cooked away things as they thought about those other
yeah,
perceptions that they brought in. But they were always like the
totally.
people who like got really shut in about stuff. They were like, I don't
Yeah,
think they're ever that great. You know what I mean? Like, well, Van
yeah,
Gogh's whole like great period came after he had like an engagement with a woman that like didn't go great, right? So like
yeah,
maybe you could say that his microdose went a little bit macro. That's why he cut his ear off and sent it to her in the mail. But nevertheless,
yeah,
the point is that like it's his going outside of his art that really got him to
mm.
go back into his art and really be as profound as he ended up being. You know what I
One
mean?
thing about like one of my favorite comedians, Bill Burr, like he's literally just sharing his thoughts. But the point is like when you see how he thinks about things, he does because he's experiencing life, he's always out there engaging things, but he always ties that in some way to his own linear or his own progression of thoughts, which end up being really funny because it makes sense how you would think about it that way, but you wouldn't have thought about it that way, or you did, but you never thought to even communicate it out loud, and he just kind of expresses all that, and it's really, yeah,
Yeah.
it's really funny. It's really well done. It's a
Yeah.
coherent expression from an artist. One's in comedy and others are in music or rhyme, but they're similar thought processes, I think, or
Yeah.
frameworks.
Kevin's saying that when he was 15, he had a rhyme that was written that the last word of it was onomatopoeia, I believe. Last phrase
Awesome.
of the word I had in a rhyme of mine. Yeah, it
I would
definitely
like to
has
hear that song.
that like be ya or see ya thing going on. So I think like
Yeah,
it's not impossible to rhyme. That's for sure. So
yeah,
yeah, I think with that, that's where you get like down to the class of the lyricism, right? Like so many Okay, I cannot tell you how many fucking amateur rappers on the planet have utilized the simile. I'm gonna blow up like a bomb. Like,
Mm,
they fucking all say it. Like, if you're ever
mm.
freestyling, don't say that. Don't say that. Anybody who knows anything about hip hop at all has heard that one 152,000 times. And like
A little bit.
it's just no good anymore, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
it's you got to get more clever than that. If there's something that like it's not that hard to rhyme off of it, you need to make it
Mm.
hard, I think. Is kind of thing. One thing that I like about a rapper named MF Doom is that he commonly gets like just you can tell that he like hears a word and he's like that word is so weird I have to make rhymes around it, you know? He
Yeah.
has this one song where it starts out and it says catch a throatful from the fire vocaled ash and molten glass like Ijan find a jokel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's the name and he says in the next line, the volcano out of Iceland, cops came to destroy the rap game like the white men.
Well done, sir. Those whole lines, fucking great, man. I love finding people like that, or finding those phrases where people just really hit it, and you're like, "Fuck, well done."
MF Doom is insanely good and insanely underground too. Like only real hip hop heads know about MF Doom, but it's kind of funny
Cool.
cuz like if you know hip hop really good, the whole conversation of the best MC is a bunch of people talking about guys that are not the best MC. It's very funny. You know, they're
Yeah, no
like
shit, huh?
Notorious B.I.G., Tupac, Eminem. Nope, sorry. Nope. None of those
Yeah,
guys. They're not
interesting.
even in the conversation. Those guys are not even in the conversation when you talk about like real lyricists. You know, there's like
Yeah.
well, in terms of people who are still alive and active, I'd say like probably top three in terms of like pure lyricism talent. You got MF Doom, Black Thought, and Aesop Rock. And like, just quite honestly, there's 99% of people who pick up a microphone and try and do rap will never be in the same galaxy as these guys. Like,
Mm.
literally not even in the same galaxy.
It's an interesting
So,
way to like. It's an interesting metaphor, right? So in the same galaxy, within galaxies, there are countless stars, planets, nebulas, all sorts of things to experience in that universe, a framework or a context,
Immortal
a palette
Technique,
of.
good story raps, not as good with words as any of those three dudes. Just
Eh,
still, for me, not the same class. Very good, much better than I will ever be. Very, very powerful songs. Immortal Technique. Like he has
mm,
a song that's all like about like a story rap basically about a girl getting raped and stuff. Most Def, really interesting shout right there. Like he's an interesting thing to note is that there's a 20-minute video on YouTube of Most Def hanging out in the studio and random other places saying MF Doom lines because Most Def's favorite rapper is MF Doom. So
huh,
he actually did a whole remake of a whole bunch of MF Doom songs, like this big mashup where he uses all of MF Doom's lyrics, but kind of like his own delivery style, and they're over different beats, but like it's basically like he's remixing the lyrics, but it's all the same lyrics. But like
yeah.
he's Most Def is huge into fucking MF Doom. Most Def, excellent MC, excellent, top caliber for sure. He's one of the guys like he might be in there. He might be in there. He might be. I don't know.
Awesome.
Immortal Technique might be in there. Like these are both good shouts. Like I'm not trying to take anything away from Immortal Technique. I'm really trying to give something more to these other guys because like
Mm,
they're really like something else, man. So
yeah.
it's like
That's a good way. That's a good way to say to frame that too. I'm not trying to take any away from these. I'm just really trying to give extra to these. That's really a good way to
yeah.
say that.
Well, there's like okay, so there's a couple of radio shows where people come on there and do like freestyles. One of these is this show ran by this guy that's been around in hip hop for quite a while named Funkmaster Flex. When Black Thought came on there, this dude drops like I don't know, like 100 something fucking bars, just boom, 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 and all of it is like thick with content. It was
Yeah.
crazy. It was crazy, and like realized like I mean, he's done so much stuff too. But like
Yeah.
then also this thing just really like showcased where he was at in the modern day and if he just like went off on something what it could be
Yeah.
because dude, like it is just ridiculous. And the one cool thing about Black Thought is that one there's a couple guys that have used really, really high quality breath control in places. But Black Thought is
Mm.
actually known for specifically incorporating rhymes that require circular breathing in order to be able to do them. And he's one of the only MCs that has ever done that, and especially does do that right now because he comes from like a singing background. His mom was a singer and shit, and like
Yeah.
he learned how to circularly breathe like an opera singer does, and he uses
Cool.
that so like when he's like saying words, he's like sneaking inhales in between them and shit. So like
Totally.
this
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
thing that I was talking about just to work my own breath control, I fucking memorized this thing as well and would do it like right along with the track, trying to actually like to see how long I could stay on because like it's hard to keep the breath even if you know our
Right.
words. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's crazy. It's so good. But I mean, it's
It's
just
just amazing
amazing
how
what some
like
guys doing with words.
well, the words and then also the technique. So he actually grew up learning that technique. So it's kind of subconsciously ingrained in him. So then he can craft his words around knowing how breath works, and then naturally he's already got the neural pathways to do that very, very coherently. Where other people would have to really practice that and integrate that into their style. But
Hmm.
he's had that breathwork technique already ingrained in him. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, really, really good. And it's like, and it's good ass lyrics too. It's not just like some guy came on here and spit 100 bars where he said, like, I'm, I'm the best 60
Yeah,
times
yeah.
inside of there. Like it's thick with the content for
Yeah, my
sure.
buddy in high school, he was my best friend. He lived with us actually for a year. He's from Canada, trying to go to school and get a degree here in basketball. We're playing basketball together, and he was actually recognized nationally, even though he was short. He's like 5'8", but he was like the McDonald's All-American VP when he went to all that shit. Anyway, when we'd freestyle stuff down in South Seattle or place we go play basketball afterwards, end up freestyling. He'd end up freestyling or whatever, randomly with people. He was so good. The same shit. It was so literally freestyle flow, not necessarily pre-written shit, but it flowed together so incredibly well. Like every line
Hmm.
or every few lines was like, holy fucking shit. It's so condensed, so concise. You can kind of like comedy, right? Taking a perspective on a situation or politics or whatever, some relevant to
Yeah,
culture or pop culture, but then phrasing in such a way it condenses so much information, takes you on a ride of emotions or thought processes in just a few bars or
yeah,
a bar. And it's like, holy shit, you're an incredible human being. That is amazing.
yeah. It's so weird how this shit like emerges in your head too when you're doing that. Like
Mm,
when you get into really good flow with lyrics, like you honestly just like don't actually know what's gonna come next. So it's
yeah.
almost like you're listening to yourself. You know what I mean? Because you're
Do
like
you think
having
about
words
that?
spring into your head so quickly and then like associated concepts.
So it's like flow state, and similar to just even the show, like different dynamics. At times we go into, you can call them soliloquies or things where you just start. I mean, I've noticed like starting on certain topics or things.
Big
When you
L.
start to get it, when you open that doorway, just your mouth, not knowing where you're going to go next, but slipping into that flow state, the words do come. And it's amazing because it really is novel and organic in the moment.
Yeah. This he listens to I haven't heard Sean P. I'm very interested to listen to him now that Big L came after him and then Rakim. 'Cause these guys right here do not get enough mention in the modern day.
Mm,
We used to joke about Rakim, but it was actually probably more true about Big L. That like when people didn't know who Rakim was, we would tell them it's their favorite rapper's favorite rapper. It's all the time. But
awesome.
Big L was amazing too. Big L has one line that like I probably think about it every day because well, pretty much it's actually because I think highly of myself and I apply it to myself. And but
Hmm.
it's just the line is so good. I don't remember the whole of the thing, but there's one little snippet where he says, "I'm so ahead of my time that my parents haven't met yet."
Wow. Yep. I resonate with that shit for sure. Well said.
It's
What a
so
fucking
good.
great line. Wow.
He, Big Al is so good. He's so good.
Awesome.
He's like okay, like Jay Z. got a lot of what he does in his what is known as his iconic style. He actually kind of got things from Big L with this. Where like um so they'll do this like rapid fire thing where they purposely like go off time and jump across the bar line and fill a bigger space with
Uh,
shorter like punches. And this is actually something that Big L did before Jay-Z ever did it. But Jay-Z, like when he was getting famous, he used this like a lot in a bunch of his stuff. And but it's like he really you can if you knew Big L's stuff, you can see where Jay-Z kind of got that from him. And this is like no surprise at all. I mean, like Jay-Z literally came up underneath Big L. Big L's the whole reason why Jay-Z ever got listened to by anybody, really. So he was like Jay-Z was Big L's little buddy that he like took around with him places that could also rap better than everybody here besides Big L, basically.
yeah.
Flamboyant. Yeah, that this track by Big L Flamboyant is amazing. You know, I don't man, I don't know. They murdered Big L, so we might be able to get away with playing it.
Yeah.
Oh man. I don't know though. They might be. Dude, this song starts out. Make sure my mic is loud and my production is tight. Better watch me round your girl if you ain't fucking her right.
Awesome.
Oh
Did,
man. He's fucking funny. He was very like he was the gutter New York City rap in the very beginning, right? And then it kind of like went
yeah.
like two ways, right? Like you had the partying cats from the ghetto that were still like kind of hard a little bit, and then you had the other guys that were like the Mob Deep and people like this that were like all they talked about was like, well, in one of Mob Deep's songs, they're talking about swinging belts around their head, hitting niggas with the buckles. So like that kind of I think embodies what their music was about. A lot of it was about fucking somebody up, shooting somebody. How I got my bulletproof vest locked on tight, you know.
Yeah, so it's like it's a lot of the mainstream rap, but it's done in a way that is far more creative and engaging than just some fucking hook or mainstream like line that's been said a million times. A little different. That shit's like
Yeah,
super creatively
and
different.
Mob Deep's legends too. They have a song called "Shook Ones" that like I guarantee you, basically every MC has rapped over this beat at one point in time or another.
Mm.
Recorded, maybe not, but at some point in time, that instrumental got put on, and they were like, "Yeah, I could freestyle to this." You know what I mean? Because like it's such
Yeah.
an iconic beat. So and that track is amazing. Also, it's weird though when I listen to Mob Deep because like I love what they're doing and I really actually do appreciate their lyrics, but it's so thug. Like not like Tupac thug. Like I'm pretty sure these guys actually shot people thug. Like
Yeah.
very thug. Like every song is including something about that. It was
Yeah.
very much so the kind of music that well, it was stereotypical to where people were saying, you know, like, oh, it's all about killing people and fucking women or whatever. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, well, if you're listening to Mob Deep, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It is actually all about that. But that was
Yeah.
actually what their life was like. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if where they were from the fucking projects. You know,
Yeah.
Queensbridge, as they always say, Queensbridge don't play. You know what I mean? And like that, but Queensbridge was known at that point in time for being a pretty rough project, and you know, so nevertheless, yeah, and like Kevin's saying, yeah, like the New York thug style. Yeah, there was a New York thug style, and like I don't know, it kind of got lost in the commotion when they started doing the East Coast, West Coast stuff. Yeah, Dead
Mm.
Prez. His song Hip Hop is like another like anthem, legendary anthem. If you want to make people who have listened to hip hop for a long time scream twice in a row, play Shook Ones and then follow it up with Dead Prez. It's hip hop. And like 100%, they'll be like, both these songs are amazing. You know what I mean? So,
Awesome. You should create a playlist just off of this video or this chat, this podcast, like just everything you mentioned. That'd be cool. That playlist. Put
Oh,
it on the Expand
there's
Understanding channel.
uh, that's like how do you ever even complete that? You can't. Like you could add
No, you
tracks to
don't.
it, but
Yeah,
you,
totally.
you
But
just
just like
you
even
I'd think
one
of a new
track
one of
from each
these every
person you
day where
mentioned.
I'm like, oh yeah, this track.
Well,
Yeah.
I know because we brought them up. It's fresh in your mind. Every person you mentioned, or just like one track from them. Even what you just said, those last two tracks, play those in a row. Just like throw
I
those on a
have a
playlist. That'd be
very
awesome.
diversified hip hop background too. I must
Uh
say,
huh.
this is mainly because I came from a small town that pretended like it was big, but everybody like acted like they were like a thug or a gangster, but none of them actually like knew anything about the culture. We certainly didn't have any real like hometown people or whatever, so they just kind of like listened to whatever came across their plate. And I
Yeah.
was like actually searching for music, but there was no one like telling me who to listen to. You know what I mean? So like I was
Yeah.
sampling stuff all over the fucking place, and there's just so much good stuff, dude. Like if you cherry pick every single little niche, oh my god, there's
Yeah.
so much good stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. Totally.
Have you listened to Outkast at all? Like Outkast's more popularized in this day and age. You've probably
Yeah. I've
heard
heard
them on the
Outcast.
radio before for sure,
Yeah.
you know. But like, man, Outkast, like they have a fucking album called Aquemini because there's two MCs in Outkast. One of them's a Gemini, one of them's Aquarius. And then this is
Huh?
about them like coming together making an album, right? There are so many alchemical references inside of this fucking album. It's insane. It's
Cool.
insane. Because this album's from like 99 or something like that. And these are like couple black dudes from Atlanta that like you just don't actually expect them to be knowledgeable. And they're so
Mm.
unbelievably knowledgeable. They're so unbelievably knowledgeable. Everybody knows now. Everybody learned now. Like now they know
Yeah.
that Andre 3000 is a very learned man and an incredible wordsmith. Andre 3000, I'll put him up there with the other guys that I listed earlier.
Cool.
Andre 3000, man, jeez, he's so good. This guy, like every single feature that Andre 3000 has ever even done is like, Jesus, he blew the roof off of it. That was amazing. Like, you can't go wrong. If Andre 3000's on the track, his verse is going to be sick. I don't know about the rest of the track. He's going to destroy everybody else on the track, though. And his verse is going to be amazing.
Yeah. Awesome. Dude, right on. You say what? Kevin said, yeah, the Aqua Emini, and then AT or Atlians.
Yeah, ATL is like the abbreviation for Atlanta. And then
Okay, you're right,
so
right. Like,
ATLians is like aliens,
gotcha.
but
Yeah,
Atlanta,
yeah, yeah.
right? That song has a couple like well, one it's like a really legendary track. Again, you could also throw that on in the mix with the
The
other two
playlist that you're gonna make
that I
from this
said
video,
before.
yeah, please do.
Really honestly, this entire album and this entire album go on the playlist. They're everything
Do it.
Outkast ever did on the playlist. Everything Andre 3000 ever touched on the playlist. Like, dude,
So,
it's all so good. Oh my
so we
god,
are
he's
talking
so
about
good.
the same Outcast who has some mainstream songs which are good. I mean, I've heard, but they are kind of mainstream. You're saying his other albums and shit is like fucking really sick.
Even the mainstream tracks, if you take
Yeah.
the time to listen to it and like, well, if you know Andre 3000, even that shit's
Uh,
just sick. The fact that he can like diversify like that and go from being just like the most incredible wordsmith, and then 2 seconds later he's wearing like some platform shoes with like some leopard print skin tight pants, and he's
yeah.
like doing like high step kicks across a stage while he rips on a guitar, and like he's eclectic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and they all really like do actually have a message, all these things, you know what I mean?
Kevin put in there Miss Jackson. Yeah, I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Ooh, I
Yeah.
am for real. Yeah, that's a cool song. I mean, the way he structures the song, even it's very unique. Yeah, engaging. It's really good.
And like these are just the hooks, you know what I mean? Even those
Yeah,
songs though, Let me
Oh
bring
yeah.
up these lyrics real quick so we can see
Never
Andre
meant to
3000 sing
make
there.
your daughter cry. I apologize a million
And
times.
he
Yeah.
does this cool bridge in there where he's like, "Me and your daughter
Yep.
got a special thing
Got
going
something
on."
going on.
You say it's puppy love, we say it's full grown,
Full grown.
you
Yeah.
know?
It's a great line. Yeah. It's a
Well,
great line.
and then he says a roof because this full grown, the full
Hmm.
grown of a dog, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Oh, perfect. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and make that
hope that we
connection. Yeah, yeah.
feel this way forever. You can plan a pretty picnic, but you can't predict the weather. So
Yep.
he says 10 times out of 9, now if I'm lying find the quickest muzzle, throw it on my mouth and I'll decline. Okay? This is not like a
Mm.
poppy verse, right?
Yeah.
So this continues the puppy love metaphor from the bridge. Andre is saying that he's so positive that his apology is sincere that he is willing to put on a dog muzzle and go silent if anyone else can prove he is lying. 10 times out of 9 equates to more than a 100% chance and is another example of the hyperbole Andre 3000 is using to prove the sincerity of his apology in those two lines. 10 times out of
Beautiful.
9. Now, if I'm lying, find the quickest muzzle, throw it on my mouth, and I'll decline. Right?
Mm.
King meets queen in the puppy love thing. Together dream about that crib with the Goodyear swing on the oak tree. I hope we feel like this forever, forever, ever, forever, ever.
Forever, ever.
Forever never seems that long until you're grown and notice that the day by day ruler can't be too wrong. Like, the
Yeah.
day, and notice that the day by day ruler can't be too wrong. You know,
Yeah.
like, okay, so forever never seems that long until you get old and you realize that you ain't got that much time left. And when you got there, you realize that you wasted your time working for the man or whatever was getting you down day by day that was the measure of your life. But
Yeah.
it also can be the wrong thing. Like, what the fuck? Dude,
Yeah.
he's so good. He's so
Yeah.
good. It's really just insane, you know.
Wow.
Like the
Yeah.
next line, like to know that you know that he actually knows stuff. Miss Jackson, my intentions were good. I wish I could become a magician to abracadabra all the sadder. Thoughts of me, thoughts of she, thoughts of he. Asking what happened to the feeling that her and me had. I pray so much about it. I need some knee pads. It happened for a reason. One can't be mad. So know this. Know that everything's cool. And yes, I will be present on the first day of school and graduation, right? Saying that he's going to be there for the whole kid's life because this is all about getting a girl pregnant and her mom being pissed off, and
Mm.
he's apologizing to mom for getting her pregnant. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
like, dude, and this is one of his mainstream verses. That's a
Yeah.
mainstream verse from Andre 3000. It's amazing, dude. He's amazing. So he
Wow.
has other things that are even more clever, like I don't remember exactly how it goes, but he's making reference to um I can't
Mm.
do it justice, and I don't actually remember what track it's even from right now. Dude,
Mm.
he just has so many fucking good lines. It's really just ridiculous. So
So
what
yeah,
Jesus, man.
we got a new person in the chat. Limbo Man says, "What's your opinion of Ted Kaczynski?
I
Kaczynski?
I wouldn't say that I have a huge opinion of him at this point in time. Back when Ted Kaczynski was a very operational topic, uh, well, there's a lot of questions going around about the idea that potentially like MK Ultra gone wrong. It's altogether possible that he was just acting of his own free will. It definitely got spun really, really
What's this?
odd.
What's the story? Because now you're adding
Ted
drama to this. I have nothing. I know nothing
Ted
about.
Kaczynski was the Unabomber. He was the guy that was mailing around bomb
Oh,
packages. And
well, he also did
well,
music.
no, it's got nothing to do
Oh,
with that.
totally
This
unrelated.
guy's
All right,
randomly
totally
asking about
unrelated.
something completely different.
All
So
right, I thought it was music related. But anyway, keep going.
he was dropping bombs.
Okay, yeah, there we go. Totally related. Perfect. Totally ties in. Well done.
Oh man. Yeah.
Excellent.
I at this point in time, I don't really have an opinion of Ted Kaczynski because he's been absolutely off the radar for at least like a decade now or something. It's very
Mm,
interesting that the process of him mailing stuff that was supposed to be bombs then led into the idea that there was anthrax coming in the mail, especially to government buildings and people that
right.
of notoriety, and that all led to the postal service actually becoming a private entity when it was
Mm,
actually a government entity before that and it was being paid for with taxpayer dollars, which it is not now. And it has subsequently been completely ran over by Amazon. And one might ask some questions about the relation of all these things and the function of lobbying inside the government. And
mm,
I don't know. Ted Kaczynski could have had a role in that, or he could have been acting out of his own free will. Who knows?
mm.
I think he was. I know one thing. I know whatever Ted Kaczynski was, the mainstream media and the globalist agenda most definitely utilized what he did to utilize the exact same fear dialectic that they always do and basically scare people into thinking that they were going to be like, they needed to be fucking careful and have a bomb sniffing dog when they went and like checked their mail and shit.
Mm.
And these kinds of fear agendas, like, it really just kind of ridiculous because, like, well, 99.99999% of people never received anything like that. So for
Yeah.
everybody to be scared about, it's a little bit crazy. Potentially, yeah. Prime example of agoraphobia gone wrong. It's altogether possible he had a lot of psych issues for sure. Um, who knows? It's really tough to say in cases like that.
Mm.
I believe
Yeah.
he
Without
was
knowing
a
more details.
professor somewhere like Harvard or somewhere really major, which when that's like I'm not sure if it was Harvard, somewhere big though, and like having those kinds of spaces and then ending up like that is kind of a weird situation. If you
Yeah. So
behind the scenes government research is a weird place, and
yeah.
that's well one way to pretty much guarantee that you're going to be engaged with that is to be a professor at an Ivy League school. So
They do get a lot of funding.
yeah, and there's only one way to keep getting that funding, and that's by
Yep.
making sure that you're doing the things that they want you to do. So you
Yep.
don't get funding to do what you really want to do. What are my political ideologies? Politics is basically a waste of time. Um, I think it is influential on the world currently, but I think if the human being was to become a sovereign individual again, they would recognize that we are perfectly capable of managing our own life, and we don't really need politics and government as we have it today, or as we've had it for really quite a long time. Um,
Yeah.
so if
But
I'm completely honest, I'm completely for overthrowing the government entirely and dealing with
yeah.
whatever the fallout of that is.
Do you want to break down the etymology of anarchy? I feel like that's fitting here because it's not what people think it is. Or the nuances in the collective dynamic.
Sure. I mean, so the way that people generally think of anarchy is like some basically place of lawlessness, which it's not that, you know. So to
Yeah.
be completely fair to it, it is functionally a state of lawlessness. If we look at the dictionary definition here, we see a state of disorder due to absence or non-recognition of authority. So this is where you, especially with this definition, we get into an interesting space because to not have
Hmm.
an archonic government does not equal anarchy.
Disorder. Yeah.
It does not equal an absence of authority or a non-recognition of authority. It recognizes a sovereign authority. That authority is always present, never absent. Realize right now, you're given a whole bunch of laws, okay? But those laws, many of them are not things that you cannot do. They're things you're not supposed to do. You definitely can do them if you try to do them because there's an absence of authority from stopping you to do that. If you go by the basic definition of the word anarchy, technically we live in anarchy right now because there is a certain percentage of individuals, it's actually most of them, that don't have a full recognition of what the current standing of authority is. And there is functionally always an absence of authority because they are not taking responsibility for themselves And the overarching authorities that would take responsibility for them really just have too many people to watch, and they're not present on like a person by person basis. So in a certain
Mm.
way, we're functionally in an anarchy already, especially as we plunge deeper into the, we'll call them conspiracy theories, that becoming more and more known, less and less people are starting to recognize the authority of, say, the mainstream media, which is very much so a tool of politics to keep the social dialectic in order. They're not recognizing the bipartisan system as being the powerful
Mm.
thing that it once was. Many people are seeing through the idea that there's actually really even choices, that it's really more just, well, you got like the lesser of two evils, and neither of them are very good, right? The real point of this is that it's very possible that we're actually already in a state of anarchy. So anarchy does, in real actual function, you can take this definition and say that, anybody even that says that they're for the complete disassociation of the government, they're not necessarily asking for anarchy. Maybe they believe that
Mm.
everyone should be sovereign and responsible for themselves, and thus they believe that we should recognize ourselves as the authority figure and make ourselves an ever present, omnipresent authority figure inside of our own life. No one is better positioned to be an authority on your life than you, you know? I mean, even your mom and dad weren't around for your entire life. That's why they're not sitting here right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're in the best position to be an authority on in your life. And if you're not the authority in your life, then technically that authority is always at risk of being absent or non-recognized at any given time. It's just a choice
Mm.
away. It's always just a choice away, anyways. But it's an easy choice away, right? It's
That's
harder to
interesting.
not
It
recognize something that's right in your face.
sounds like it's similar to money. Money only has influence or buying power because we believe that it does. Collectively, we agree that it does. In the same way with authority. I mean, if you're giving it power to have authority in your life, whatever it is, that makes sense to me.
Good. Yeah, I mean, if we go into, like the Kabbalah, basically. They talk about the
Hmm.
worship of Kahin, which is basically placing the authority figure outside of yourself, or placing God outside of yourself and worshiping an external God. And functionally, that's kind of the state that we're in right now with many different things. Most people
Right?
do not choose to recognize themselves as the primary authority figure, inside of their life. So,
Yeah. No, this may be kind of a stretch, but it feels like it applies now. Doing the same thing with the whole COVID thing and wearing masks and whatever. I mean, if you're just deferring your connection to whatever you're hearing from whatever authoritative resource or CDC, or they said this, or I watched an interview and they said this, and so I'm going to do this. But like, if you're not checking in with yourself, you're putting a God or a control system or a belief system telling you how to govern your life outside of yourself. Tune
yeah,
into your own body. How does it feel when you wear a mask? Because if you want to get into the science of it, you're rebreathing your own bacteria and a whole bunch of shit. You're literally making yourself sicker and dumber. But if people think, well, it's good for everybody, they don't think about how it's making them. Like I said the other day at Starbucks when I mentioned this girl was talking, she said something about wearing the mask and she totally forgot her order. And I told her that rebreathing your own oxygen, all that stuff, whatever, will literally make you dumber. But it wasn't
yeah.
an insult to her, and she got it. She goes, "Oh my God, I didn't know that." And she grabbed her coworker and she's like, did you know this? Because that totally makes sense. Ever since I started wearing a mask, I'm forgetting shit, and I'm not getting like the right in front of me. This just happened because she checked in with herself instead of just doing what she's told, not understanding why she's not feeling better.
Yeah.
You know?
And that like brings up an interesting thing on rights. I mean, Starbucks has no actual legal standing to force them to wear those masks without providing testing that they are not providing. According to OSHA standards, every worker that's wearing a mask needs to be tested hourly to ensure that they are like above like 19.5% oxygen, or that they're
Wow,
below
didn't know that.
19.5% CO2 if you're wearing a
Yeah,
mask. And on top of that, the masks that they're wearing are, according to OSHA, not good at stopping anything whatsoever. So,
right.
so it's very interesting because, the even if you were like a Starbucks employee and you're like, no, I'm not going to wear a fucking mask. They're like, you have to wear a mask or you're fired. You go, well, you fire me for not wearing a mask. I'm going to fucking call OSHA and tell them that you're forcing everybody to wear masks and forcing them to be beneath, proper oxygen levels, which is causing
Right.
depreciation to our health, which will be just an unbelievably fucking massive lawsuit. So please be my fucking guest. Be
Yeah.
my guest,
Which,
buddy.
think about the irony of that. We're stopping the thought. I mean, I'm just processing through this now. I don't have any set opinions on this because I'm dealing with the day to day and the place where I work and, running into people and having conversations and checking in with myself, doing my own research, whatever. It's all in process. So just think about the dynamic of where the problem with, I mean, I posted a meme recently that got, I think there's like 60 plus comments on it now. It just turned into a massive, it was a joke. It was funny to me in the context, but then you have to have like, as much as I want to engage, or people are engaging each other, trying to explain how this is humor because they're so offended by something in the meme that I'm like, Jesus, and I didn't even feel like it was that
Yeah.
offensive of a meme. But it,
Mm.
just the state of where people are at. And it had to do with the COVID shit. But the point is, so part of it was emphasizing that we're focusing on this one virus and what it's doing to people, and it was contrasting. Let's see, the meme was says 3,000. This is obviously posted earlier when the numbers were earlier, probably in the months. But 3,000 people die of COVID and we lose our shit. 300,000 people die of obesity every year, and we come out with a new flavor of Doritos.
Yeah.
Right. So the point is that the
It's
reason a
fucking
virus.
crazy, dude.
So like
It's
here, so the
crazy.
thought that the dynamic and that the point is, and like I didn't even think too much about it. Made sense. Made was funny to me. It made sense to me in a way that it made sense. I reposted it. Then people pointing out all these things, getting all pissed off. It had me re-articulate the aspects there. And one of them is that it's pointing out that a virus one only affects us, and in 99 point plus multiple decimal points for whatever percentage of people recover and are just fine from
Yeah.
this. For one. Two, it's a virus. Your virus only affects you negatively to an extent when you have some kind of immunocompromised position. When your immune system's fine, at worst you get a fever, you kill it off, or whatever else happens. I mean, it's oversimplifying. Our immune system's insanely complex. But the
Yeah.
point is, our bodies are incredibly capable of taking care of everything. But what we do in culture is that we glorify, overlook, undervalue things like obesity that are literally compromising our immune system. So I understand obesity is a choice, virus isn't a choice whether you get it, right? But the way you live your lifestyle and your internal belief system puts your immune system in a state whether or not it will affect you. We are all
Yeah.
responsible on some level for how sick we get. Like if we
There's
really
just an
want to think about
enormous
it.
amount of fucking like data out there showing that even just like having a stressful lifestyle or living in like a place that you don't like living and things like this
Right.
show that you get sicker more often. So you're getting more
Well,
sick more often. You know what I mean?
which is funny because that brings us right back to the whole thing with the COVID thing started. Like Frank was sharing statistics in the Bronx that within a few weeks of the COVID shit or the stay-at-home orders, that domestic violence calls from the police had gone up like
Mm.
60%.
Yeah.
And that dynamic. Because if you're living in a
Why
normal
wouldn't
state
they?
at home, well, like obviously people aren't super happy at home. There's some level of massive undealt with issues, or now that you're forced to be around each other more than you've kind of allowed in your life to be around this person, there's all this anxiety and stress and clash that they don't know how to deal with, which literally lowers your immune system and makes us more susceptible to sickness.
Yeah. There's a very real situation in the, in the modern Western world of the fucking, the man gets off work and then he drives home and he pulls up in the driveway and he just sits there in his car for like 10 minutes because he's like, fuck, I don't want to go inside here. You know what I mean? That
Yep.
guy now got tasked to work from home and he never gets to leave. He's about ready to kill people or commit
Yeah.
hate carry, like one or the other.
Or vice
He's going,
versa.
so's
Let's say in
going bad soon.
a stereotypical dynamic, or just putting whatever out there, but like where a stay-at-home wife and she has kids or whatever, she's figured out a life where she is happy in that dynamic when he is gone for 8, 10 hours a day. That makes her happy,
Yeah.
right? They're great when they see each other, but
The
now
house
they're
is
both
hers at
home.
that point in time.
Yeah, but
The
now
rest
he's
of it,
there
she
all the
tries to sleep
time.
through that.
But now he's there all the time, so she has just as much trouble. So it's whatever. It allows people to see the reality of their situation with their life partner.
Mm-hmm.
Their life partner. Based,
Yep.
if your circumstances change, do you still actually want to be with this person? Do you still get along with them? Or are you still friends? Like, do you actually like really enjoy each other? Because that's great in this dynamic. You're realizing you don't. So maybe you should make different choices. Either change your behavior, or change if you want to love that person and get better, fix shit, or whatever, or like change your lifestyle choices, go a different direction.
Yeah. The downside about the situation is I think in most of those cases, or at least in my experience coaching other individuals, especially and studying psychology, usually the answer is you two aren't very good for each other.
Yeah.
If we're already having this conversation, but given the current circumstance, I think people are more likely to try and tough it out of desperation and out of basically fear that they won't be able to replace the thing. And
Right. Yep.
that's like the number one reason why people stay in relationships that are no good for them to be in is
Well,
that.
psychological and neurological trauma patterns. So that the shitty situation you do know is far less scary than the unknown, potentially worse shitty situation you're not sure is what's in the future. And that liminal space is being able to step out of what you do know and are comfortable with, shitty, good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. The
Sure.
familiarity of consistency, which
Yeah.
gives you a framework of expectation, and you step out of that, and that's a hard place for a while sometimes, but that's faith or whatever.
Yeah.
You're acting on what you know is right for you, even though your circumstances may totally fall apart.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's not a good look, man. You just gotta choose yourself and be like, this ain't the right thing for me. Fuck, this sucks, but I gotta not do this anymore.
Right, really,
It
at
has
some
to be
point.
done. It fucking has to be done.
And
So,
just
I mean,
I looked at the clock. It's 55:55 and we had 10 viewers. So it's really 10:10:10, which is 3, which is great.
let it be known, I got pretty high level of patience and tenacity, perseverance inside of my relationships in my life, but
Mhm.
I do not advise that other people do it the way that I do it. I really don't. I really don't. Like
Yeah.
I like to tough it out. I believe there is a better way though. It's
Mm.
I don't think it's necessarily easier, but you
Oh,
know,
it's definitely
it's
not easier, but
it's
it but
all
it's
it's all
providing.
it's all centered around the idea that like if you don't fit in somewhere, you're perfect somewhere else, and I really do believe that. Like
Yeah.
you as the way that you want to be and the things that you want from your life, like they're available for you to gather them. But if you let
Mm.
yourself be held back by relationships and fears and other various stuff, then you never get to have them. And I would really like for everybody to have them, you know?
Yeah, man, really. Because like the
So,
world would be such a better place for everybody individually, therefore collectively. So
yeah,
so Zach, according to Zach
it's
Mortimer, which is
scary
fucking
though.
great. Yeah, no doubt. Stop,
So,
decide, determine what feels better or feels good. Go that way. Just
yeah,
make a choice, man. Every day, even in your heart. So think about this. Like if you're ready to be done with the situation, it's not like you have to make the choice to physically leave your situation, your circumstances, your job, your relationship, whatever. It's starting in your own heart, deciding I am going to pursue what feels better. And
mm,
then the 3D circumstances will unfold over time. So you don't have to think, well, if I choose better, immediately all this is going to fall apart. Nah, it'll probably fall apart over time. But you know what? You'll feel better and better about yourself
yeah,
as it falls apart because you know you are choosing something for you.
yeah. That's the beta. Don't leave the relationship per se, but
Yeah.
functionally leave the relationship. Just stop putting time towards it, and instead spend that time on yourself. And
Hmm.
like you don't have to have like some big talk about it or make somebody
Yep.
all sad or anything. You just start spending time on yourself, and slowly but surely you'll come to realize that that other person actually doesn't fucking care that you now spend all of your time on your own. And then after you've done that for a little while, you'll be like, well, like I decided I'm gonna get an apartment because I haven't talked to you in 2 weeks anyways, so I'm good to
Yeah.
go. And they're like,
Yeah, but
yeah, this has been weird.
yeah, and ideally that's how. But the point is, like you in that dynamic, and there's countless ways to do this. This is an avenue of pursuing this separation or whatever. But when you do it that way, you're building yourself up. So as you come to that moment of physically leaving, you're far more prepared than you thought you could be because
Mm,
you hadn't started honoring yourself. Once you start honoring
yeah.
yourself, it's amazing the place that you are internally to handle those situations.
Yeah. If you're in a relationship that you're postulating leaving, you probably have a depreciated self-image at that point in time
Mm.
because the toxicity of the interaction of you and the other individual has probably led to a depreciated self-image of both of you and both of your own belief of yourself and your ability to like make a relationship happen in a way that feels good, you know? So
Yeah,
you have to start like doing stuff to believe in yourself again and to know that you're like a good valuable person. This is why like
yeah,
the rebound thing, I'm not about that life. I would never have rebound sex ever in my life. Never have, never will. And it's
yeah.
always been because of the same reason. Just like I just know that like my decision making process when I'm on the rebound doesn't give myself enough credit. I need to like
Mm.
stop, be by myself, remember who I am, remember what I like, remember how how it is to be by myself, and
Yeah.
who I am and why I value myself and why I enjoy me and what it's like to spend time by myself so that I can go and interface with other people and ensure that I'm interfacing with someone who enhances that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want something out of anybody that I'm in a relationship with, but all of my relationships are based off of the fact that we enhance each other's lives. And as long as there's more enhancement than there is depreciation, the relationship can continue. The best relationships are way more enhancement and way less depreciation. And that's pretty much how it all gets prioritized. And ideally, you try to fill your life with a bunch of relationships that them being them enhances your life, and you being you enhances theirs. Like that's
Beautiful.
the that's the money zone. But you can't get to
Yeah, no
that
doubt.
money zone if you don't honor that rule. And most of the time, like most people don't honor this rule, honestly. Yeah. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's the reality of the situation. Most people will say they honor this rule and they're fucking liars. And they know they're liars when I say that.
Elaborate.
So, well, they just know because they know inside of their head they do this shit. They know inside of their head they hold on to a job longer than they want to because they're afraid they can't do something better. If they were to leave a job or lose a job, they take another offer quicker and for less money than they think they're worth because they were worried they weren't going to be able to find something.
Mm.
They get out of a relationship, they get into another one. That person's not exactly really actually what they wanted, but well, it's kind of on the way there and it was better than being alone. And now I've been here for
Mm.
like 3 years with this person and I'm not actually sure I really actually like them. I mean, they were better than being alone 3 years ago, but where am I at right now? And they're not even actually having that conversation with themselves, you know? But
And
that's a
everything you
conversation they
said,
probably should.
yeah, and everything you said really sinks in when you say, and then it's been 3 years. Like they're really,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just this isn't a thought process over a couple days or weeks. Like this is the thing that happens if you don't stop that thought process
Yep.
and
Shit gets
reassess.
comfortable real fast, especially when it includes sex. Sex
Or
or
some
making
form
lots of money. Either one of those
sex,
will allow it to
sex,
get
money,
comfortable real fast.
or some kind of affection. So if you get enough affection that you didn't have in a previous relationship, but it's not really the level you want, but it's better, and it's better than being alone, and then that some affection lasts for years, but you're still not satisfied. You're just as unhappy
Mm-hmm.
eventually as where you were in the other one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. It's because of this. You know, it says right here, I've been single for years and I feel like it gave me a chance to fall in love with myself again. And that's really the
Yeah,
thing. Wherever you go, there you are. You will never
100%.
be more in love than you are with yourself. It just
Hmm.
ain't gonna happen. I've said it for the longest time now. Your amount of self-love sets the limit case for love that you can experience in your life. That is a fucking
Yeah.
fact inside of this reality. That's all there is to it. You cannot
Yeah.
possibly experience love being received from someone else or someone else receiving your love more than you can experience yourself giving love to yourself. That sets the
Yeah.
limit for the whole fucking system. It doesn't matter how much your fucking mate can be the best lover on the fucking planet that speaks every possible love language, the greatest. You don't fucking hear none of that shit. You're like this fucking person, they don't know how to love. They're so fucked
Yep.
up. You just can't see it anywhere. You literally can't see it anywhere.
Yeah.
It's
100%.
really
And like
make your own reality with that one. It's
and
crazy.
being and it's like even thinking about that, there are overlaps. I mean, some people they need time, like getting out of a relationship and really need months, years, and like whatever need is, it's subjective, but some people and some dynamics need that to rebalance, to really fall in love with themselves. Other people, towards the last few years of a relationship, you start to really, really love yourself so that when you leave, you're so coherent and ready for the next thing. Not that you're necessarily looking for it, but you really are in a healthy place. There
Mm-hmm.
are ways to, so really, whenever you start the process in a relationship, after you break up and from a really, hard thing, or like during that dynamic. But the point is you can get there multiple ways, but you got to
Yeah.
get there.
I broke up
You
with
got
my
to get
kid's
there.
mom and like I was fucked up and like so much of my identity had changed and all this shit and like straight up dude like 4 years after that not even like the thought of getting in another relationship every single day like for lack of a better word, doing work on myself, approaching my own issues of why I like how I had lost myself, how I had forgotten who I was, dealing with how I guess just displaced my understanding of myself was, being that like I had been so engaged in this relationship and so engaged in just a completely different lifestyle, and then like the having a kid felt like I like became this new identity, but then that was now like gone, and the thing that I was before felt like very mature, but in like a different way. Like it felt very adult, and like I wasn't that thing anymore. And now I was doing like adult things, like working a 9 to 5 and shit like this. But like also
Yeah.
all I wanted, like I went to work and then I went home and I like played video games or learned stuff on my computer. And like it
Yeah.
felt very much so like I was like just some kid, you know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
so weird. And like I was just in like basically just a fucking identity crisis because I had just been like ran through like a washing machine of identity,
Yeah.
like gaining and losing all at the same time. Nevertheless, like the next like several years is trying to figure out like, what the fuck do I even like want from life? Who am I? What do I like? If it's like, what was everything I was doing before, was I doing that because that was what everybody else was doing, or because that's actually what I wanted to be doing? What was the
Right.
value of doing that stuff? You know? Like, and so I just, for me, I had to analyze all of this stuff and figure out like, well, I did with my methodology thin, I should say, but realize at this point in time, you're talking about like like a 19, 20, 21, 22-year old kid basically, that's
Hmm.
just like kind of doing it on his own. I had no like psychological help. I didn't go see like a doctor or coaches, or didn't talk to anybody about this. I just like figured it out on my own. Like I was hiding. That's why I didn't have any help. Not because no one was willing to help me. Of course, there's tons of people willing to help, but I was
Yeah.
hiding. You know what I mean? Like I was just like I was afraid to really interface with anybody, except for in like certain situations, and well, it's fun. We could honestly say thank you to marijuana for keeping me fucking social, because it was about the only reason that I ever talked to other people, was either
Mm.
to get weed from them or sell weed to them. That was pretty
Huh.
much the only reason that I was social during that period of time. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I would have sat in my house by myself all the time, and I don't know whether that would have been better or worse. I have no idea, but marijuana was like the only reason that I was even social at all through that time. So.
Totally. No, it totally makes sense. I want to address, let's see. So Jordan asked up here, how do you learn to be alone when you haven't been for so many years? So one of the ways, when I was coming out of the longest relationship that in my life that lasted almost a decade, and just actually physically being separated, was incredibly lonely. Now, I remember parts of myself over a couple weeks of being separated, like my nervous system becoming aware that it's a real reality, that we're not living together anymore. Like this is real. It's not like we've just thought about this before and we knew, kind of we knew, or no, we knew this was progressing this way, and like it's actually, excuse me, it's actually happened. And so I remember very much feeling like parts of myself, if you want to call them fractals or dissociated, or what's the other terminology when there's disruption of growth. There's a TV show named after it. I forget what it's called. When you're stunted in your growth or progression in a certain area. Um, there's a name for it. It's on the tip of my tongue. Anyhow, these parts of myself that were like yawning and waking up from like some deep slumber or something.
Mm.
Like, oh, is she really gone? Oh, okay. Well, now I need to be dealt with because I'm super lonely and I've just been fucking hibernating because I've been here, in this
Yeah.
dynamic. Now you're out of it. Now that's where there's an internal poise of like, I don't want to feel that rebound relationship, or you don't
I
go
don't
that
want to
quickly
feel
to it,
that.
right? But it's you do choose to stuff that down, and that could be whatever, TV shows, food, just shit, and nothing that's wrong. But like, why are you doing that? Being aware, and then so I remember just choosing, and I've made these choices my whole life. When this happened, that was choosing, I was going to honor every feeling, every part of me that needed to be felt until no longer needed to be felt. And that meant months of like in agonizing loneliness. And I was progressing in other areas of my life, but that was an underlying thing. It was weird. The separation, just the physical separation, literally being disconnected from the magnetic field, electromagnetic field of another that you've been with for many, many years. That's a massive shift in your literal everyday energy cycle. That feels uncomfortable. Can be interpreted as loneliness, at least in that dynamic, right? Because there's a familiarity there and there's an actual energy feed cycling that happens. So as I did that, the right circumstances and things in my life unfolded. I met the right people, that just friendships and different dynamics came in such a way that helped me to not be lonely, but in a way that was healthy. Because I was honoring that part of myself and discovering. I mean, there's so many things that happened during that process of discovering myself, and I already been falling in love with myself for years, leading out of that relationship. So I was able to continue those habits of loving myself instead of going to self-deprecating places or depreciating places, but deprecating. But being able to, but the point is allowing myself to feel it, allowing myself to fully embody that. It'd be really sad, numbly sad or whatever. But it's not like, yeah, that
Yeah.
that is a way.
So on a totally different angle to that,
Mm-hmm.
I more like, I guess, well, yeah, whatever, like more about like having fun is so. How do you learn to be alone when you haven't been for so many years? You have to learn how to have fun by yourself and what you do for fun. And that doesn't mean that you actually have to be by yourself when you do it, just that you need to be basically the initiator of the things you do. And when you learn to be the initiator of the things you do, you'll find that it's actually really easy to not be alone. Like if most groups of people don't have someone who actually like plans shit, and then like people are willing to do stuff, but they don't actually ever go and do it because no one comes up with the idea. But the people who do come up with those kinds of ideas are people who have learned like what it is that they actually like to do, and then they plan to go and do it, and they start initiating these actions and engaging stuff that interests them. And then if you want to bring other people with you, you do. If you don't, you don't. Both have value and benefit for various reasons. But I find that just like, so if you want to have something very structured to do about this, is like take some time to sit down, actually, like, set a space to sit down and focus on yourself for a little bit, and get like a piece of paper and a pen, and like take some time to brainstorm a list of things that you really, really like, you would really love to do. Like things that are very interesting to you. Maybe it's music, maybe it's painting, maybe it's fucking roller skating, maybe I don't know, maybe it's fucking learning how to make bird houses. I don't know. It doesn't matter. You just sit there and just abstract this. We call this, like in business coaching, we call this like a brain dump, right? You're literally just putting every fucking idea that you come up with. If it pops into your head that like you would like to build an entire castle out of Legos and then destroy it while dressed up in a giant teddy bear suit, write it down, right? Like, it does not matter how ridiculous, it doesn't matter how impractical, it doesn't matter how much you don't have the funds or don't have the time. None of that. You sit there and you just spend for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever, just sit there and write down every single thing that you can think of that sounds legitimately just interesting to you. No judgment, not like, would other people come with me? Would I be able to do it? Does anyone do this? Is it all right to do this? No one's ever going to look at this list but you. So you can be completely honest with this list and just literally dump your whole fucking brain onto there. Every single thing that interests you. Now, I wouldn't recommend getting rid of this list because you can check back into this list, and if you want, this is shit I do with my clients. So we would then take that list later and we would pare it down into where we would have like things that are feasible short term, feasible long term. We'd look at basically this brain dump list a whole bunch of different ways, figure out things we can do today, things that we need to vector towards in the short term, things we need to vector towards in the long term, just based off of their feasibility, functionality, efficiency. We're taking the perspective of like, we're going to knock out this whole list, even the craziest stuff, but what's the best path to take to there? And we just start doing shit down that pathway. And basically, the whole thing is to re-engage, like having fun with yourself, having interests with yourself, seeing life for what you want to see out of life, not seeing life for what you and the person you were in the relationship with, even if that person was 28 other people over the course of
Yeah.
2 years or whatever, doesn't matter. The we, right? Instead of deciding what we want to see in life, figure out what me wants to see in life, right?
You know,
And
it's you know
actually
on
start
that
doing that shit.
on that dynamic. I mean, it's funny because it's such a really good technique, and I was thinking about that externally, but I started to float into thinking about how that would apply internally in my own dynamic. I mean, I was doing that mentally for years before I left that relationship. I was really
Mm-hmm.
paying attention to the differences of what she liked and the things we do because she liked it, and that's fine. I'm pretty easygoing with stuff. Like,
Yeah.
and I like when other people enjoy stuff. I like being with them when they enjoy it and learn it. Like, it's just fine. I'm pretty whatever that is. Maybe that's a Pisces Vedic thing, fluid or something. 'Cause it's definitely not an Aries thing for sure to be that just like amenable. I just am.
Sure.
Right. So like, um, because I find joy in it, but I was really
Well,
fine. Good.
Rams, Aries, is
Mm-hmm.
very good at making space. They're just sometimes very like
Uh,
pushy about it, and in a certain way, you were pushy about it. You pushed yourself though.
huh.
So you were the ram, but you were pushing. You were the ram running against you rather than running against the other person. So you're basically like
Huh.
contrary Aries. You're contraries.
Wow. Dude, that's the best astrology breakdown I've ever gotten. Ever. That is
Yeah.
so helpful and insightful. Wow. Okay,
So
let
you
me.
you
All
were
right.
very pushy and forceful. You just forced yourself to deal with it. And it's not necessarily a bad thing because it's not necessarily a bad trait of the standard Aries to be like, fuck you, I'm not dealing with that in my life, smash them out of the way and like make a new
Yeah,
hole in the
yeah,
wall at the same time and go right at it. You know what I mean? That there's not necessarily
yeah.
anything wrong with that either.
No,
But
at all.
the forceful Aries is still there.
Yeah.
It's just
Interesting.
handling you.
Okay, so yeah, no shit. And so on the other dynamic of that, that's really interesting. Okay, so I was also taking those mental lists of anything that I would encounter in life, thought processes, or I was doing tons of it at the time, exploring through, like, say, you had a YouTube channel, just you. You would definitely be somebody I'd subscribe to and listen to everything you've ever done and listen to you regularly, amongst a handful of other people that shifted and like overlapping spheres. There's still people I go back to, Seven Bomar, and there's a handful, like, ever since I found them, I will always be tuning into that shit. Like, that's because it's also relevant with the times. It's not
Yeah,
just like
I'm gonna
same
tune
old
into
shit.
Terrence McKenna lectures in the year
Yep.
7286. You're like
Mm-hmm.
5,000 years from now, I'm still gonna hear that. And we took
Yeah.
place in the search for the transcendental object at the end of time. It's like,
Yeah.
I was like 100%. I'm gonna be like, oh man, I love this guy still.
Yeah. No, 100%. There's definitely those that I've run to. They'll always hold up spaces because they speak interdimensionally in a lot of levels. They speak at other additional layers of thought and concept and perception. So there's always new layers to gain from listening to them. That's not true of everyone. Just isn't. Sorry.
No.
It just really isn't. But when you find them, it's great. So I was like finding these people and also coming across things and experiences, realizing if we were not in this dynamic or if she ever decided she was open to this is something I thoroughly would enjoy. I know that, but
Mm.
not getting bitter about that because I'm not like there's times of struggling with that, but ultimately being like just taking that checklist, like subconsciously ingraining all this in. So part of even my transition out of that relationship was very lonely, but I was my neurologically and social my own internal moral restrictions or belief system restrictions were already ready to receive everything that was coming for me next. So the
Mm-hmm.
encounters like meeting Frank and like a lot of stuff happened shortly after that dynamic, that I was ready to engage. Where if I was still closed, I wouldn't have been able to receive. It's kind of like or it makes me think of now it's old a modern parable, but an old concept. Like there's a flood coming and there were trucks that came through or people that would take them out of their house, and I said no, we're waiting for God to save us. Then the or the universe, we can call it whatever, it doesn't matter. Their house is flooding, they're on the roof, a boat comes by, offers to take them out, and they said no, we're waiting for God to save us. Then a helicopter comes and then they end up drowning, right? Because they're waiting
Mm-hmm.
for the universe to save them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a dynamic of save yourself, but even again, in a dynamic, in a relationship, in a job, start actually taking those lists to be aware of what you do enjoy. You're actually creating just by focusing on that, what you enjoy and pursuing that in your thoughts and like really embodying that, you're literally creating the pathways for your next transition whenever that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
7 is definitely one of these people. I think you have to allow yourself to get into like a flow of knowledge. I really honestly think the people that you're talking about have access to the great Greek gnosis. That's
No
the
doubt.
separating line.
And the beautiful thing is that's coming through a human vessel. It really, I believe that can come through anyone. I absolutely believe that. But it's a matter of how
1000.
much
If it can come
space.
through one, it can come through all.
Yeah. So if it's a matter of holding space inside of yourself to enter into those streams of gnosis that are you, they are a unique expression of you, even if it's an connection to the infinite and to all this shit. It comes through your words, your life experiences, your choices of expression and nuances. Like it's so incredibly valuable when anyone is in those states. And it's not like a trance state; it's just an is state. You're
Hmm.
just being. You're just
Yeah.
being. You're coherent. It's beautiful.
Yeah. It has a
And yeah,
really
seven does it much more than most humans, so
it
that's why
has a
he's
really notable
incredibly.
rhythm to it. That's like my favorite part about it is like no matter what the voice
Mm,
is that's on it or what the topic is, it has the same
yeah,
rhythm. Like if you're just listening to it go it has the same rhythm all the time. I
yeah,
just like I don't know. If that rhythm is happening, I'm not listening to any other one. Like I
yeah.
shut everything else down. Everything else is quiet. I don't listen to nothing else if that rhythm is happening.
Isn't that
So
interesting? Because that's you. It's like a tuning fork thing, right? But you're aware. You've heard that frequency before. You've heard it inside of yourself. You felt
uh
it before. So when you feel it elsewhere, immediately you've matched that resonance. Everything else is shutting down because you're entering back into that place in yourself. And it's so nice that another being is actually emanating that frequency that allows you to go to that place in yourself, and then also connect with their very unique stream of expression.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like with the thing that got me the most about recognizing the rhythm and coming to pay more attention to it was like how often it was coming through and how random some of the people were, and how like
Mm,
it wouldn't be like all the time for them. It would just be just like in this one moment, everything must
yeah.
have clicked right, and they're just like you, it's well, because it feels like divination or like
Mm,
foresight, right? Like
mm.
they're about to say some shit that's even gonna surprise themselves.
Yeah,
You know it's
totally. Oh,
coming.
yeah, 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 yeah,
And like I love that.
yeah.
So
Oh, I live for that shit. I
yeah,
mean, I'm feeling all that come up again just as you're talking about. So, yeah, man, that's fucking, that's it. That's connection on the deepest level. Really, it doesn't matter. Total stranger, right? When you feel that level of resonance, because it's like similar to the deepest level of resonance I find in myself in a human expression when I'm
yeah,
in that place. So I sense that in another person. That's fucking connection immediately, and that's incredibly like unifying, healing, if you want to call it healing, just
sure,
connection. It's life sustaining. It's life giving.
yeah, yeah. Anybody can be this. We are all just a vessel channel in the universe. We have to allow ourselves to be able to do that. Whether it's from the beginning of this episode where we were talking about lyricists or excellent music, which are two very good ways of doing this, or this end
No
with
doubt.
speakers. It's all really the same thing, and really everything in the middle is too. And like this is me outroing very cleverly, but
I
it's all
noticed.
about the same thing.
Good job. Yeah.
Really recognizing that the uniqueness of yourself is the highest form of path that you can possibly walk on, and then allowing yourself to do that because you care about yourself and you care about the world. So,
Mm,
focus on yourself, and for lack of a better word, be self centered because everything is functionally a projection of the self. And by making your own world better, you put yourself into a position that is more fit to make the lives of other people better. And that is the highest good that you can possibly do for the world. We can't change the world if we can't change ourselves. We will all die from the sickness if we can't see the health. So,
mm,
I hope you guys have a wonderful night. But
yeah.
remember, you can already just love yourself today. You can already just be happy today. You don't have to get to the future to do it. Just take a moment to try and encourage yourself to at least spend one moment just loving yourself today. Not
Yeah.
because there's reasons, just to do it. Just being practical like a kid. Just do it just to do it. So, love you guys.
And
See you later.
because it's you. Sorry to end that total quip right there, but really because it's you. And if we're talking about the tuning fork thing, I mean Zach and I are very much emanating incredible love for all of you because we love ourselves. So we are literally emanating through this space and broadcasting a frequency that you can find resonance in. It's not us that you love. Sure, you love us because we're cool and you love us if you connect with us. Great. We love you, but we love you because we love ourselves. And if you can feel that through us, you can find yourself You can't feel something you've never felt before, so allow yourself to feel it through us in our own unique expressions. That's at the core, very true of who we are and what we emanate. I'm just articulating it.
All right.
So have a good night, guys. We love you very much.
Appreciate everybody for being here. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell to ensure that you are alerted when we go live on this channel. We have several shows on this channel from wonderful people, each in their own right, with their own sets of skills. And we are always looking for more people to join the community. Please follow our social media links in the description below if you are new to the community, so you can keep up to date with us, what we're doing, where the community is moving. We have some pretty big plans for this community, and several of us basically do this not only as our hobby, but also as our business. If you are looking for help with yourself and really becoming a sovereign individual who can really take on the tasks that you dream about accomplishing, definitely reach out to us. We have somebody that would be a perfect fit for you. There are many of us from drastically different backgrounds, and surely you would resonate with one of them, and they would love to speak with you and find a way that we can work together. Have a wonderful night, guys.
And last but not least, the Shipibo people, the one of the original indigenous people of South America. It's also in the links below, and that we support them $4.50, feeds a family for a month, 450, the whole tribe, the whole village for a month. We sent them 450 last month, I believe, and we're coming up on another one. So any donations or anything you can spare, you feel inclined to give is very, very, very much valued. And that's always there, and that's always present, and that matters a lot to us. Last time when they got the food, just that money goes straight to them 100%. This isn't through an organization. This goes directly to them. They gave us receipts for all the food and all that, totally unnecessary. Like, just they really showing how they're spending the money and how much it means to them, and all sorts of pictures, and it's beautiful. So you really are helping real people right now that really need, and they're really some of the only oldest lineages on this planet. So by helping them, you're helping the earth in a very, very profound way.
Very much so. We're feeding kids and families out here, guys. Even if you can't donate to the fundraisers, please subscribe to the channel, because the other channels that you're subscribed to probably aren't feeding 100 indigenous families, and we
That's
are.
right.
So that's reason
That's
enough.
right.
We're gonna lead out with some music because I'm gonna listen to this anyways as I get myself situated. This was the track that was at the beginning of the thing, but segmented out of this mix. It's very, very good. Hopefully you like it as much as I do, and have a wonderful night.